All right, so you just did this already once. Matt Shears is in the room. I'm playing with my new toys. I'm not quite good at them yet. Sorry. We're trying to get a little better at knowing a little bit more about what's going on. We got city races coming up. Depending on who you ask, we've already had city races start. So that's a thing that we're working on, and we're trying to figure out who's who and what's what. I had Chris Davis in. We were talking about city elections coming up, and one of the big things that I took from that is the general turnout for non-mayor year city elections is pretty low. And so I've got a backstory about Mr. Hornbrecht on that one. And I'll tell you that story here in a little bit. We're Almost Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Our website is up, running live. It is almostagreement.com. All our current episodes on there. I'm working the backlog through. You can reach us through there, through the email directly. Hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. I've got Spangler next week because I win bets. I've got Todd Promeyer stopping in next week, too, to get at least one more in before he jets out of town. So apologize to those on YouTube that are seeing this again in the live version, but this is what we do, so deal with it. All right. Almost in agreement, everybody. Here we go. All right. So I screwed up. I can't touch my buttons right. The people that are not watching don't see the peanut anyway, so I guess we don't need to retell the story of where the peanut comes from. So I don't know. Where do you want to start? I talk to you probably more than I talk to my mom. Not talk to. We chat on Messenger through Facebook or whatever quite often. Because I very much enjoy talking to you, and I'm pretty sure something along the lines last night. It's like, I very much enjoy talking to you. I think you're a great person, but I kind of hate what you do for hobby. I guess it'd be a hobby. It's not a living. You're not getting paid for it.
I get paid $100 a month.
Oh, see, I'm so confused because you talk about not getting paid, but
it's a stipend. I get $100 stipend. It's for coffee and gas to drive over here and things like that.
Oh, so you're getting paid to be here?
I'm getting my gas paid for.
Well, that's more than I get for paid to drive home. So.
Well, yeah, we can talk about a lot of stuff. I mean, you kind of covered some of the things. I mean, we've got city council races coming up. We've got the 287G with the sheriff's department. We can talk about turnout. We can talk about how this episode was supposed to be another chairs battle. You had invited Daniel Herrera to join us, but he backed out for whatever reason. So
you were correct. There was that conversation had been had, and for. I don't know. He's not here. But in at least the sake of transparency, by his account, between taking the chair and his day job, his schedule is packed, and doesn't have time for me. And I'm pretty sure, like immediately after we had that conversation, he was on like Channel 8 or something like that. But whatever, Channel 8's more important than me. I get it.
Mm-hmm. So, I look forward to hopefully having a chairs debate sometime soon.
We'll do it. We'll get it worked out. It's gonna be. I'm excited about it. One, just because I get to play with my toys and have more people in the room and do the different things. I joke all the time. Like, I'm a junkie. I love this thing. Yeah. I love doing this. I can't wait to do another one.
Well, once you start into learning about local politics and local government, I mean, it's just kind of it's a rabbit hole. You learn about this thing and you learn about that thing, and then once you get so far into it, there's only a certain amount of people who are also either one interested or two.
On the level to be able to talk to about
know
it.
or even care about it, really.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's one of the things that I'm finding. Because again, like I don't know, I don't want to do the Board of Health conversation again, but I still don't think anybody actually knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean,
like the public version of it, because like, like we sit here and like especially this Bob Fisher. Is it Fisher? Is that how you say his last name?
Bob Fisher. Yeah. Bob.
Yeah. So Bob and I have been going back and forth about the Kyle Ward situation. I've invited him on the show if we're going to call out people for coming on the show and not coming on the show and stuff like that. And I'd love to have him. I'm curious. Like he's I don't quite understand some of his rhetoric, but I get that he's impassioned about a thing, and I get that there's a particular issue, and that this personally affects him a lot, and he's he's again very impassioned about this particular topic, and I can respect that. But it's like he is one of the most vocal people about the issue that I've interacted with so far, and I don't know this for a fact. I haven't talked to him outside of back and forth on Facebook, but at least on the surface, I don't know that he knows what's actually happening either. And he's so enraged and passionate about it to the point where there was concern that he may or may not have indirectly thrown a threat out or whatever, which, this goes back to I think it was the last time we had a show when we were talking about the insurrection. And my concern was this is rhetoric used quite often situationally, and here is a local version of it where to me his was more blatant than the Trump one was. But again, I don't have the context on Bob where we have the context on Trump, and so I'll acknowledge my ignorance on that subset part of it. But the grand scheme of things, he has, it's in that family of words and phrases that we use all the time in political speech. I believe the specific one was at all costs for this one, which again, it's not out of the norm, for lack of a better word, but in this heightened situation and this heightened sensitivity to what is and isn't a threat, it got into the category, and I get it.
Well, I think that certain issues become microcosms of larger shifts or values. And a lot of times when someone or when anyone is very passionate about a specific policy issue, particularly on the local level, I think many times it's an extension of not just that policy issue, but kind of larger political or philosophical values at play. And so people do get pretty excited about things. And I think rightfully so. I mean, we need to make sure that how we get excited about things is conducive to dialogue and fixing problems. And I mean, sometimes we need to raise hell about things. Sometimes we need to come to the table and negotiate and talk about things. But I mean, particularly the Board of Health, I think, is a microcosm of larger political values or philosophical values. And not everyone, not everyone is for keeping the Board of Health for the same reasons, just like everyone that is against keeping the Board of Health is not doing it all for the same reasons either. And so
you take the opportunity to make sure you get a fundraising moment out of it, and I get it. Yeah. I hate it, but I get it. So
well,
anyway.
and okay, so we can talk about that. So the picture with Commissioner Biggs.
All right, here. Well, so yeah, you go on. I'll find it for us.
Yeah, find the picture. So this, I think, is one of those things. It's a microcosm of larger values, or political philosophy, or what an individual cares about. So. Seth had so there was a photo that was taken of Commissioner Biggs with some of the anti-mask, anti-Board of Health people, and they were celebrating, and he was in this picture as well.
I was not in this picture.
No, I said Commissioner Biggs.
Oh, I'm sorry. So here's the picture. I found it on there for those watching. And I mean, those locally in it, especially the people that follow the Knox Dems page, the Compass, I can't say the word Compass colloquially. Yeah, I can never say that word, and so I just stop at the beginning of it. And so it made its rounds, and it's been whatever. And I don't know. I get it. Especially from spectating on the conversation. The Knox Dems page I get for a whole separate reason, but like the colloquy page and other sources, and then the comments that follow on it, like I get it from having done this and starting to interact with these different people, especially on the Compass page, that I understand the outrage and stuff about it. But like when I see something like this, I think when Gwen McKenzie got her reparations $1 million,
it wasn't reparations. Thing, it wasn't reparations.
Whatever it officially was, whatever the specific phrase was, that economic development plan or whatever that she was putting together. When she got that through, did she celebrate? Maybe not like this because they were masked up in there.
Yeah,
that's
sure
a whole separate.
And we're proud of that, but we're not proud of the Board of Health being
right. You're not, but Biggs and the people that follow
and
Biggs
so
are.
we're communicating with your voter, both Democrats and independent swing voters, that these are politicians who are happy with the Board of Health going away. And so that's,
it's a factual statement. Again, I get it, but like I see that as like as fairly divisive in the sense that,
I think it's divisive to get rid of the Board of Health.
Okay. I think it's divisive to. This isn't a me thing, but I think there's plenty of examples where the shoe's on the other foot, and this is where I joke about how like earlier I joke.
But what Gwen McKenzie did and is doing through her program is not analogous to the Board of Health, in my opinion, it at all.
Okay, what do you mean? I mean, how not? It was It was a
because the Board of Health
it was a government action doing a thing for the community, and the people that follow that person and are in favor of that person and the way they do things is celebrating the action made. That's how I see it. I agree. I don't think the Board of Health and Economic Development Plan are the same thing, obviously, but I think the more abstract version of it is Commissioner Biggs.
And so it becomes a decision of what do we celebrate and what do we try to accomplish. And I mean, anyone can celebrate anything, but if we think that they're celebrating a policy or pushing a policy that is detrimental, and not just to Democrats, I mean, that we believe is detrimental to the community, because it's not about whether Democrats are
Right.
how it affects Democrats.
I agree. Again, I'm not disagreeing with you on the optics and what's going on here. It's just I think that you could. I think that maybe not Herrera, but I think that there could be a GOP version of the same thing for a specific policy. Which I just threw the Glenn McKenzie one out as an example, where they take that same thing and they go to their voters and look at this socialist move that the left's doing, blah blah blah, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
It's the same game. You guys both play it, and the game's gross. And I hate it. And I recall the first time you were here. I remember the first time you were here, we were talking about Trump and how good he is for fundraising, and that I can't remember your exact phrasing, but it was something on the line of there's a moral dilemma for you, and you don't want to play the dirty politics game.
We don't fundraise on national things, on Trump things, but this is an important issue to many Knox Countyans. And we need to communicate that the people that we elect are pushing policies that are detrimental to the community. And if we communicate that through a photo, through public statements.
I don't want to go back on the Board of Health thing, because my first question then follows up with, how exactly is what has happened detrimental to the public health?
What do you mean? What has happened? Getting rid of the Board of Health?
Right, the dissolution of the Board of Health. How, we got another week and a half before it officially takes effect. But I don't remember the exact date, but it's the 2nd right now. So let's say on the 10th it officially takes effect. What happens on the 10th that's not happening right now?
What happens on the 10th is that now there is this message out there that county commission will cower to these right-wing radical people that want to dismantle the Board of Health, and I can guarantee you that they will now come for Dr. Buchanan.
Okay,
that's their next step.
No, we'll see. I follow your logic on that.
The first domino is down, and they're on to the second domino now. And now they're energized because they think that they can sway the county commissioners. And so the county commissioners, they can say that they respect Dr. Buchanan and love Dr. Buchanan all day long. I don't believe it, because they sat there while these people harassed Dr. Buchanan, called her a liar, said that she wasn't doing her job, and then didn't even rebut it, and in fact voted for it. And so now these people are going to come for Dr. Buchanan, and they feel energized because the county commissioners listen to them. And what's interesting too is that most of the county commissioners were not on board with getting rid of the Board of Health at the very beginning, way back when. They were not on board with it.
So what's waiting?
But they listen to this minority of people that are in this photo.
Now, see, you do this a lot, and I tend to want to believe you. You're deeper in the game than I am, but you do this a lot where you put the phrasing of a majority of people, most of Knox County or most of Knoxville agrees or something like that, and like this is now become a goal for me in the show is to be large enough, and since. I love the Compass. I think everybody that listens to us should subscribe to the Compass. That's their format, their for-pay format. We are going to be an ad model, and so that you guys don't have to pay for it. But I'm hoping to get a large enough audience that we could do power polls. And again, no offense to the Compass, but the Compass being the subscription model is more likely to have a little bit different functional power poll than a more radio style to the masses one. Because I want to be able to for you and I to be chatting on Facebook or whatever, and you just say one of those and be like, all right, fine, and then go to our Facebook page, hit a power poll. 36 hours later, we have 25,000 votes on the power poll.
That's a higher return than a city election turnout.
I know, but that's that's now become one of the things that'll be a check mark on my win list as we grow, because very often when you say it, my gut reaction is to agree with you, and then every once in a while I have to remind myself it's like, I know you have the the super national Democratic Party data machine that you get to play with and look up stuff, but I assume that these kind of things aren't on there.
I got it. So rather than saying minority, majority, I'll just say that the rhetoric, particularly that the people that would speak in public forum would use, I cannot imagine that kind of rhetoric or even argument is the vast majority of Knox Countyans. And even if it were, county commissioners should not have gone along with people standing there and harassing the Board of Health and calling them liars, calling Dr. Fauci a communist, saying it was all a hoax. I mean, they should not have, even if that was the majority opinion, which I highly doubt that's the majority opinion.
I didn't get to watch all the meetings. I felt like I got enough in my one meeting to count for a year's worth. So I do not recall that specific. So just random Knox County citizen goes up there, waits fuck ever for their chance to to speak in public forum, and so fuck. This is not a gotcha attempt, but so you're advocating to shut down the public forum?
No, I'm advocating that you don't listen to everybody that comes to the public forum and walks off the street and starts calling Dr. Fauci a communist and Dr. Buchanan a liar. That's what I'm saying.
So what do we mean we don't listen to? We don't.
The county commission.
So it happens that a handful of people come in, all crackpot out, and QAnon and up on the stage, and then whatever the issue is that therefore we have to automatically be against because
they were the ones who put the pressure on county commission, and county commission listened to them.
Again, that's another one. I need to see the stats. Where's the stats?
They're the people who showed up. They're the people who showed up and called them and emailed them.
Plenty of pro Board of Health people showed up too. Like my 7-hour epic. Was it? If I was a better journalist, I would have been sitting there, and every time somebody started talking, as soon as they made it clear which side, I would have had a little tick bar to do the math. But
I'm saying at the very beginning, if you look at the very beginning, the only person that was against the Board of Health at the very beginning was Kyle Ward and maybe Biggs. Daley voted to keep the Board of Health at the beginning. Terry Hill did, and then they switched, and they sat there and listened to these people.
Right, so
even if they weren't swayed by those people think that that's how they swayed them.
No, I'll agree with that part.
And now they're energized, and now they're going to come for Dr. Buchanan.
We'll see, and again, I follow the logic on it 100%. But again, it's one of those like. Even if I agree with you, the problem with it is that I'm trying to. How do I get?
And I know that Kyle Ward's district doesn't agree with it because Joe Biden won Kyle Ward's district.
See, you throw that side out too, and I don't know what the fuck that means either. I'm feeling extra cussy tonight. I'm sorry. I know you're a religious person. And I was thinking earlier about
Good Friday.
I was thinking earlier as a joke that we would do this entire episode on Easter. Like, hey, everybody, got Matt Shears on, the chair of the county Democratic Party, and then just go through the history of Easter and all the sermons and stuff that go along with it, just for funnies. But again,
I'm saying that it energized political rhetoric that I think is toxic to the community. Disagree with the Board of Health.
All right, so okay, I will jump on board with what you're saying. To the extent that it continued the energy that's already existed through our mutual less than favorite president we've had in the last, I don't know, ever. So I'll agree with you on that. But that's one of those things that I really, really struggle with in general. Outside of this particular issue, I don't know. And maybe it's me because I stayed out of politics for a long time. I didn't pay that much attention. I didn't really care that much. But I mean, politicians are politicians. They've always been this way at some level, and it's always been the game that it is at some level. It's a little worse now than it used to be, or whatever like that. I have a hard time, and maybe it's just me, but I have a hard time saying, with Trump as an example, when Trump says something stupid on the microphone, I have a hard time going, oh, duh, yeah, of course, and then running along with it. I acknowledge that some of those people exist, and maybe Trump was a bigger version of it than normal, but I really don't feel like maybe it's more of a should than is to me. It shouldn't be that big a fucking deal in the grand scheme of things, the way politics and governance should be working, because more of our governance should be local than national. That's a personal thing for me. Yeah. But also at the same time, it's like, I can't remember, even with Obama, as well-spoken as he was, and as much as you can be like, that's somebody to be proud of, that's speaking on my behalf kind of thing. There was never a time where I was like, well, Obama said it, it's true. Or Clinton said it, it's true. Or Bush or Clinton or whatever.
The other thing with the anti-Board of Health movement was that it wasn't about localized stuff. It was nationalized. They would nationalize it. They would always talk about Dr. Fauci. They would always talk about how the Board of Health was trying to dismantle the Constitution. Mayor Jacobs said that they were tyrannical and wanted to destroy the Constitution in that video he made.
I only watched like half of it. I couldn't handle it. Like, it was too much.
So it nationalized the issue.
I didn't realize it would be divisive. Or what did he say?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it's not divisive when you call people tyrannical.
Right, and I don't know why I can't get him on my show since I call him Mayor Kane every time I talk about him.
So, I mean, they nationalized it, and it became something bigger than it should have been.
Absolutely.
The Board of Health is the local Board of Health. The local Knox County Board of Health is not on some sort of communistic, Marxist tirade to destroy our freedoms. I do not think Dr. Buchanan or Dr. O'Brien or any of those folks were that's not their goal.
Yeah, that was one that I took exception to when I got a response from the Kyle Ward interview on how some God, I can't remember that. I'll go down that road in a second. But how on the show that this person on Facebook accused Kyle on the show of defamation, essentially against Dr. O'Brien for something. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, you know what? And because this is me, this is how ridiculously dumb I am. Is like I immediately said, okay. So I went online. I found the Board of Health's email. I emailed the Board of Health. I'm like, hey, Seth, I run this podcast. I had Kyle Ward on the show, and he made some comments, and I had some people that follow our show comment to me that was a defamation kind of thing, and I would like Dr. O'Brien's response. A couple hours later, O'Brien emailed me back and said, what did he say? And so I kind of paraphrased it for him, and I sent him the link, and I said, whatever you want. I'd love to have you on the show too. We'll see how. Well, he hasn't come back to me since. Okay. I sent him the show, so hopefully he's listening to the show, and he'll formulate a response, or hopefully he'll come on the show and talk about it.
Well, and so like Kyle too. Kyle says that he respects Dr. B, as he calls her.
True.
And loves Dr. B.
True.
Well, what about the time when Dr. Buchanan was talking about the importance of the Board of Health and Kyle Ward rolled his eyes on the Zoom?
I mean, okay, so
what about the fact that he respects Dr. Buchanan, but Dr. Buchanan has said multiple times that she wants the Board of Health. She doesn't want this to come all onto her. And he says that he respects Dr. Buchanan, but now he's placing all of this pressure onto Dr. Buchanan. And where is the wrath of this group of people going to come next? It's going to come on Dr. Buchanan. And so I don't believe that. I don't believe that he respects Dr. Buchanan.
I respect you, and you talk, and I roll my eyes sometimes. What does that? I mean, that doesn't say anything. You know, I mean,
at the end of the day, what Kyle Ward has done has been detrimental to Dr. Buchanan's and detrimental to the Board of Health.
Well, obviously detrimental to the Board of Health. You know, again, like I don't know. Again, you know, I often play the role as a libertarian. That's kind of where I tend to philosophically lean. I take exception to the idea of an unelected body making legal decisions for my day-to-day life.
What about the zoning board or the library board?
I take exception to both.
Okay. Then we disagree on that.
That's fine. We disagree on a lot of shit, and that's the point. And I guess, as you like to say, you're not afraid. Democrats aren't afraid of the government, and it's like, well, I try to be as realist as I possibly can, and there's plenty of there's plenty of evidence for either incompetence or malice over the decades that I'm at least skeptical when things start coming along. So, but again, so this is the funny thing about me is like, I got one of my best friends in the world. He has some phrases and things like that, and he's used them for decades. And then like 5-6 years, I finally put it together, what's being said. So it's not been quite a year that we've known each other, and I finally got what you mean by how that's a soft jab when you say that we're not afraid of the government. And at the time I was like, ooh, whatever. And then now I think about it, I was like, that was kind of mean. That was kind of a poke.
Well,
I'm too stupid to pick it up on the time.
Government is not inherently bad, and government can and should be a force for good, because the government is us. We are the government. I agree.
But that same us is the people we have to lasso into doing what they're told.
I don't know what you mean by that.
I mean, that's what the Board of Health is we have to legally make you do what you're told. That's what the conversation should have been about, is that we have this government body telling people how to live their lives, which...
I mean, the government tells us not to speak.
Again, I'm not disagreeing with you on that, but the government telling us how to live our lives, but they're just people too. Well, we're just people. And we have this weird, like, we give exception and authority to... and assume that they're smarter, better people. And I would agree that the Board of Health is very likely a smarter, better person than me when it comes to healthcare issues. But we assume we trust this system enough that all these things and we just say, okay, yeah, you're better at it. You're Kyle Ward. You're the elected for my district, so you're better at making the decision than I am.
I mean, the Board of Health is under the authority of County Commission, which we obviously see now because County Commission.
I still don't understand the law. I really don't.
County Commission has dismantled the Board of Health. So, in the short term, the people have spoken. And at least what the perceived perception of the will of the people were, or maybe it is the majority, is that they wanted to get rid of the Board of Health. But long term, we will remind people that Commissioner Biggs supported that Commissioner Ward supported that, and then we will let the voters decide whether they want to continue in that direction or not.
And I think on the pure politics side, outside of the government side, on the pure politics side, you've got 3 years to forget, 2.5 years to forget for a lot of people.
Yeah, 2 years and.
I mean, yeah, 2.5 years till election day. 2 years before we start really powering on. Well, I guess. Well, at least for Ward, Biggs is Biggs.
Well, no, it's 1 year. It's one. I mean, the next county commission race will be in a year and.
Yeah,
4
but
months.
Ward's not for 3.
Yeah, Ward's in 3.
Right, Ward's in 24, but I don't know if Biggs is.
And they'll be redistricted. So who knows what Kyle Ward's district will look like?
Well, it'll be this district. He moved closer to me, actually.
Oh, he moved. I didn't know.
Yeah, but he moved. I don't. Yeah. I don't think he can be anything but 4.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm saying the boundaries of the district could change.
Well, we're not allowed to talk gerrymandering because Brady Pace says so because it's not a real thing.
Doesn't exist.
But yeah, I'm curious. That's something I'm very excited to start looking into.
And so redistricting, how it will happen, apparently, what I've been told for a county commission is that the data will come in August and the new maps have to happen by October. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. And at least what happened last time, which was 10 years ago, is that the commissioners all meet together and apparently draw out the maps for where districts will be. And that's how it was done 10 years ago. It could be done completely different this time. I don't know if that's a public process or a private process. Hopefully public.
I will be digging. I will as come August.
So that's on it.
I am because I get something. It is a specific issue that I don't like. I don't like the way it works. And even I say that's one of the problems with that to me is like I don't know how to formulate a solution either. Mm-hmm. But okay, so this is a good transition in how stupid the fucking laws of the states are and how stupid the 2-party systems is to me. I pitched a fit at you about it. You were the first person I reached out to.
Yeah.
I follow Massey. I follow.
Is this election commission?
Yeah, I follow Gloria Johnson on Facebook, and I get. Massey puts out hey, we're taking applications for election commission, and I'm like, hell yeah, that's something that because you
get paid to do it,
right? And I've thrown out the idea, and I've had different thoughts about running for office and different stuff. And the more I do this, the less I want to run for real office because it's just a conflict. I don't want to make it a thing.
So you want an appointment to an unelected body?
I mean,
to make policy.
How much? I don't know how much. That's a good something to look into. Ward wants me to be on the utility board oversight committee. Because I keep pitching a fit about utilities because they're fucked up. And I might, I mean, if one comes up and he gives me a call.
Are you going to say that on the board?
I will get, if I have the opportunity, I will not have power or water after the first week or the first meeting or 2 that I'm in.
Yeah.
Because KUB is I'm not going to be okay with what they're doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I email, I can't remember his name, one of the aides for Massey and Ms. Johnson as well. Emailed her office as well and said, hey, I'm interested in maybe being on the election commission. What do I need to do? And I think after I emailed them, I think before I emailed them, I made the joke to you about it. And somebody told me it was partisan.
Yeah.
Before I did the email. Right. And so I emailed both of them stating that I'm an independent by the state's definition because I'm not part of the 2 parties or whatever. And both of them come back with it, and you're disqualified from holding this position. Mm-hmm. And you tried to give me an explanation, and I call bullshit on yours. Randy tried to give me an explanation. I call bullshit on his. I cannot for the life of me think of a valid reason.
Do you want me to give my explanation again?
Sure.
All right.
Let the public know.
So the election commission is made up of 5 members, 3 from the majority party in the state legislature and 2 from the minority party. So 10 years ago, we used to have, hold on for what?
I was gonna get a close up of me so I can roll my eyes while you're talking. Anyway,
so 10 years ago we used to have 3 members and they had 2. Now we have 2 members and they have 3.
Right. I did learn from Chris Davis that you guys started it.
That we started what?
This partisan election commission thing.
Oh, really?
It was when the Democrats ran the state.
I mean, we used to run the state all the time.
Well, I'm just saying that's you started it, and that's all I was saying.
So the job of the election commission is to oversee the elections for the county, and part of that is that they oversee the primaries. And so we have the Democratic commissioners that oversee that make policies or talk about the Democratic primary, and Republicans that oversee and make policy and talk about the Republican primary. But even more important than that is that there are certain protocols at play that require both a Democrat and a Republican to authorize. And part of it is election security. So election security is...
Right, because when I go and vote and I pick up a Democratic primary, if my neighbor sees that, or, I mean, hell, anybody in Knoxville that listens to us at this point catches me there voting and says he's not a Democrat, but he picked up a Democratic primary, those two individuals will get called in because they're not going to be at my polling station because they can't be at my polling station, and then they get to argue on the bona fide. And I can't remember what the rule was. Chris explained it to me last time he was here, but that they get to choose, and it has to be unanimous or something like that, which they're not going to agree because they're partisan. And so I'm going to get to run my Democratic primary.
Yeah. So where was I at?
That they have fun.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
function.
like absentees. Absentee ballot voting machines, whenever they're locked up or transported, there has to be a Democrat and a Republican there. And so election workers, too. Election workers, you sign up to be an election worker as a Democrat or as a Republican. And if you are technically an independent, and you want to be an election worker, then you just pick the party that most aligns with what you are. And
right,
so,
because fair elections it's only fair if one of the if one or both of the parties gets to make a decision on it, not just me who doesn't like either party.
Well, I mean, that's what Donald Trump's whole legal thing was, that they didn't let Republicans in, which they did.
Okay, fine, whatever. That does. I don't give a shit about that either. What is it like?
It's the basis of.
You don't get to stump me with a Trump did it too thing. Like I care that Trump did it.
I'm saying that it's at the basis and the core of our elections. We have a two-party system, and so both parties have to authorize certain things about elections. And that's how. I mean, that's how we. That's a layer of election security and election integrity that we have.
No, it's a layer. It's a layer of party security for election security.
I don't know how an independent member. So if you're an independent member,
right? If it's me,
all right. If it's
and
you,
I call myself a libertarian, but since I'm in the state of Tennessee, I'm not a libertarian. I'm an independent because libertarians don't exist by law in the state of Tennessee. What am I going to do as an election commissioner that would be detrimental to either party?
So, if you were an election commissioner,
well, actually, let me rephrase my question because that was a bad version of my question. Me as a libertarian / independent, because I have to be in the state of Tennessee. I'm going to reiterate that point because it's bullshit. What am I going to do to harm elections? Like how am I going to harm elections?
So,
because of my philosophy of non-partiness.
I mean, you don't have to. I mean, it's not like you have. Okay, so if you're an independent and you sign up to be an election commissioner, and we have independent election commissioners, so we have 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 1 independent. So you're an independent.
Sounds kind of smart. But...
All right, what if the independent all just constantly votes in Republican primaries? At what point are they Republican?
Well, see,
and at what point would people not trust that they would be representing if they were the independent and a Republican that had to sign off on something, but the independent always votes in the Republican primary?
Because so the fact that we know certain people are going to vote a certain way is better than not knowing what a person's going to do. The knowing is better than not knowing is really all it is. Knowing how this person's going to act because they have stated their intent from the get-go is more important than anything else.
Yes.
Because I pick up Republican primaries because I want to vote on things. Yeah. Because I'm in Knox County and the Republicans win Knox County. For now, I'll give you that little snippet. But for now, Republicans win the county. So when I go to a primary, I pick up a Republican primary because I want to vote for the Republican that's going to go on and win.
I'm saying that if you had an independent who constantly voted in one party or the other, there would be at least a problem of perception about whether that person is truly independent. Because at what point is someone...
but we'd rather have them actually just be a Republican because the 3-2 majority is the rule because Republicans are the majority in the state. We'd rather just know they're a Republican, even though they state they're an independent and you just lean Republican. So we get the same result. Really, it's only bad the other way for the power, the power at play, because it's really a detriment for the Republicans, because they might get a guy that's an independent, but actually tends to lean more as a Democrat.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, how is that a positive for me, the voter, not the election commissioner in the story?
Because it's a perception issue. If there are
right,
certain
so
things,
I know they're biased, and I know they lean a certain way because the state leans a certain way, and that's okay. But having an independent that it's not clear that he leans a certain way, or she, I apologize, is better, just because it's not clear that there's a bias at play.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bias. There's a bias at play. That's not clear.
So let's make sure it's clear that there's a bias at play. That's okay. So as long as we're on the same page, that it's intentionally to make sure that the biases are clear.
No, I didn't say that. It's intentionally there to provide a level of integrity to the election.
See, I think all right. So
because
to channel
you're automatically assuming
to
that
channel my very good friend AC and co-host on the show from time to time. We need to define what integrity is right now.
Yeah. So you're assuming that the independent has no nefarious action, but both of the partisans have nefarious action.
Well, when your action inside a job is to do what's best for your party and not for the job or of the election commission, then
it's not to do what's best for the party. It's to be a check.
Oh, I'm sorry. To protect the party system as it stands is part of your job, and it's clear that that's your intent with doing the job.
Their job is to oversee the election,
right, and to keep the two-party system in play. I get
That's not their job to keep the two-party system in play.
Well, it's to protect the two-party system that's already in play.
No, it's
because they're part of the two-party system.
It's to protect the election integrity so that people have confidence.
All right, so people know that the Republicans run the elections, and the people that are most upset about it will be the Democrats, which they'll slowly take over, and then it'll switch, and then the Republicans are mad about it, and then a couple of years later it'll switch again, and just like it does in the federal elections, every midterm gets flipped, just like it's going to do again.
We'll see.
Just like it's going to do again.
We'll see.
Oh, have you started listening to Jimmy Dore?
Mm-mm.
You need to start listening to Jimmy Dore. Like, this is like.
Doesn't he think the AOC is too conservative?
Yeah.
I don't know if I.
I
don't know if I would jive with him.
I don't think you will. That's that's one of the things that's interesting to me about it is like it's so like because he's not like radical crazy about it. It's weird. I don't know how to describe it. Like he's like. You know, so I listen to Ben Shapiro, I listen to Jimmy Dore, I listen to Joe Rogan, I listen to myself a lot because I'm
whiplash.
Yeah, and because it's intentional, I want to try to hear what's going on, and so so I'll listen to Ben Shapiro bitch about AOC for being crazy radical leftist socialist whatever, and then I'll listen to Jimmy Dore, and she's like she's not even a Democrat, she's a conservative.
That's ridiculous.
And I can't remember what he was talking about. He only does it weekly, and I was listening to it earlier today. The thing I like most about Jimmy Dore is that when you get into the real politics on the federal level, he's better at kind of explaining the workings of how the coalitions can make things happen.
Yeah.
And so he was on the
I don't know who's in his coalition if he thinks AOC is conservative.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Because nobody because Bernie Sanders is a bitch and folds every time anybody tells him to. Like one of the ones he did was I can't remember. It was the force the vote for Medicare for all. He was pushing that real hard, and he was campaigning and doing what his version of advocacy or whatever, trying to get AOC and the squad and the progressive caucus wing of the Democratic Party to refuse to give Pelosi the chair, not the chair, the Speaker of the House back, unless she made them put a Medicare for all vote on the floor. Mm-hmm. And so he goes on this thing. It's like, it's like there's enough, like by the numbers, or like he breaks it down. He's like, by the numbers, the progressive caucus in the House of Representatives is enough that with the Republicans that picked up seats and the more whatever standard Democrats that are in there, that Pelosi needs the progressive caucus to vote for her to keep the Speaker of the House. And this is their chance to force this vote on the floor because it puts it on the record. That's really all he wanted. He knew it would fail. Right. He knew it would fail, but it puts it on record for the future politics of Medicare for all is always on the table. This person voted against it. This person voted against it. That's what he wanted. And he was like, the Progressive Caucus has the numbers that if they say, we will not vote for you, Pelosi, unless you just put the vote on. We're not asking you to pass it. Just put the vote on the floor. We want everybody on record. And that's where he gets into the AOC's a conservative because like that was the move. They had the power in the moment and they didn't take it. And he's like, they do it over and over and over again because they don't want to. And he goes into, I won't say conspiratorial, but he goes into more of the,
I think
too busy playing the game and trying to keep the job and that kind of stuff than to really do what you got voted in to do.
I don't think that's it.
I'm just saying that you need to listen to it to understand because I'm not doing a very good job paraphrasing it. We got I don't know where we were.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can comment on that.
Election Commission, I don't care. I mean, it's federal stuff and it's important.
I mean, I'll listen to it, but I don't. Yeah, I will listen to it, but it sounds to me like Jimmy Dore doesn't necessarily understand the politics of coalition building and process.
Yeah, you give him a try because I think he's. I don't understand any of it, so he's the best I've got on that side of the table.
So, Election Commission, Jimmy Dore on the Election Commission, is that what you're advocating as an independent?
No, I mean he's uber progressive, and he doesn't try to pretend he's not. But.
So Jimmy Dore would say it was just the election commission of 5 Republicans.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it may as well be for all intents and purposes.
No.
I mean, I don't know if they vote on things or whatever.
They do vote on things.
So, so Chris Davis was in here and
talking about
like what they to repeat a thing that I think is an important thing for people to know for all of our city resident listeners, which I am not. You are, right?
I do. I live in the city.
Okay, which
District 6?
District 6.
Gwen McKenzie. Woo.
I'm trying to get her in here. I've been talking to her, but we haven't figured scheduling out yet.
I can talk to her about it. I was just texting her today.
Yeah, we went back and forth a couple of emails. She asked me to call her, and every time I call her, she doesn't answer her phone, which is apparently what Roberto does too, but that's a joke. Anyway, I've been talking to him too. I'm trying to get him in here too. He needs to fix North Shore. North Shore up here by my shop on North Shore and Kingston Pike. Like I drove by there today. It's the first time I've been there since it stopped raining. And it's not flooded anymore, but all the rocks and pavement are way up into the parking lot from where the road had flooded.
Is that a city problem or a county problem?
Well, this is the joy of government, is it's a state problem.
Yeah.
Because North Shore is a state road.
Well, when you get Bill Lee on the show, then you need to do a remote show, actually. When Bill Lee comes on the show, you need to do it over at North Shore.
While it's raining, because of the world, I'll call Jesus up and be like, hey, buddy, I got Bill Lee coming on. I need some rain so I can show him the actual problem here. Yeah, he was. I mean, Chris was saying on the show that like non-mayoral year city races are terrible.
Very low.
Like 20%, and that's not even accurate either because it's 20% of the registered population. Because and I don't know how many kids. I don't know I don't know the demographics.
It's very low.
You know, but like I think I looked it up earlier. It's like 176,000 people live in the state or in the city of Knoxville.
Yeah.
He said that somewhere in the 90s, the mid-low 90s are registered, and in a non-mayoral race, he's excited if it's a good race if they get 30%. So 25, 30,000.
See, that's higher than I would have thought, even.
I could be misquoting him in hindsight, too.
Yeah,
but.
I mean, at the end of and this is something, actually, that when I talk to our field organizers, this is what I say, is that people like me or people who work on campaigns or work in politics, this is what we think about. This is what we eat, drink, sleep. We write about it. We talk about it. We come on shows about it. This is we think about this all the time. Your average person thinks about an election 1 or 2 days a year, and most of the time it's the morning of, and they roll over and wake up and they say, oh, I think there's an election today.
For sure. Like
maybe I'll go vote.
Sam, one of the guys on the regular show, he says all the time, he's like, oh, there's yard signs out. I need to figure out what the day is.
So your average person doesn't know the nuance. I mean, your average person doesn't know the nuance of the election commission or the board of health or 287G or this or that. And the average person really doesn't have and it's not, I mean, it's not like they're inherently bad for this. It's just not as important to them. I think it should be more important.
Right.
But
it should be.
But it's their life, and they can do what they want with it. But it's the level of cognizance about elections is very low with your average person.
Right, and especially with the city ones, the non-mayoral city ones, is because you're looking at 5 of 6 districts are up. So District 5, I think he said, is the one that is not getting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 are up this round.
Yeah.
And so like the way the city elections work, being that you get to primary in your district, but then all of them are citywide, and so you'll have like District 5 won't have a primary because they don't have anybody running, but they do get to vote in the general.
Yes,
and so you get this weirdism of so they'll
some people get to vote in November, some people get to vote in August and November. Yeah.
Is it that? I thought he said the general was in August.
No. The primary is in August. The general is in November.
Yeah. See, it's again where I was confused.
The county general is in August, and the
county primary is in like May or whatever. Yeah. See, that's
a low turnout election. Talk about low turnout election.
Well, because it's confusing. I mean, and we could talk about intention.
Who thinks there's an election in May?
Yeah. Well,
Nobody.
I mean, I joked. We started the show a little over a year ago, and so I mean, my first interview was Oster, and it was probably exactly a year ago from now. Because our first show was early March, and I think 2 or 3 shows in, we started talking about local politics.
Gina's in that photo too.
I know she is.
Yeah.
But we started talking about local politics and stuff like that, and I was like, "Wait, we're in the middle of primaries and stuff. Let's see if we can get somebody." And everybody on the show was like, "No, you're an idiot. Don't do it." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm doing it."
You did it.
Just because you said no. And so I started doing this thing. And so I did not know prior to last year and doing this show that County General was in August.
Yeah.
And it's inside. Yeah. It's inside federal primaries.
Well, so that
helps. Yeah. But and then Chris brought up a good point too. It's like the idea of maybe moving the city off years onto evens so that it goes along with county stuff. But then in like this next to 22, he said there's going to be 60 something pieces on the ballot.
Yeah. Judges.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
So
I mean, that would confuse people. I mean, talk about confusion now. That would be even more confusing, particularly for people that live in the city, because then they would be voting. They would be voting
right, especially because the districts don't make.
Yeah,
they don't coincide.
Two things about this. One is this. So I don't forget the second one. The second one is about campaigning. The first one is about voting. Voting. This is why we as Democrats think that we should make it easier for people to vote and not harder. Because if you look at industrialized countries around the world and nations, we are in the bottom tier of voter turnout. I mean, look at Canadian voter turnout. It's huge.
What's difficult about voting now?
The voting now? I mean, just voter access. The hours that you vote, absentee voting, early voting, the way that you register to vote, the way that you get to... in other countries... Election day is a national holiday, so everyone has off work for a reason.
Bullshit. I mean, I'm sure. I don't doubt that they're national holidays, but the way the United States does national holidays, everybody's not off of work. And in the service economy that the United States has become, most people aren't off of work. I don't get my staff doesn't get national holidays.
But more people could have the opportunity to vote. I'm not saying that's going to be the thing that fixes everything. I'm saying there's multiple things about making voting easier. Having more accessible absentee voting. People don't like or I shouldn't say people. Republicans don't like mail-in voting.
I don't see how it's so damn complicated. Like I've never had a hard time in my life. If I wanted to vote, I voted.
But what if you didn't have a car?
Okay. I don't know. I haven't.
What if you were old and you didn't have a license anymore? Then you have to go.
Don't you guys pick them up for that? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah, we will. But how do they know that we'll pick them up?
How do they know who the fuck they're voting for? That's my pushback on it. My pushback on it isn't it about it should be easier or whatever. It's like we've already discussed the idiots that exist in Knox County, obviously through the Board of Health conversation and all that kind of stuff. Those idiots are voting. Those idiots are voting. Why? Because they want to fucking vote.
And now some of them are idiots. Some of them are running for city council. Elizabeth Murphy, who's in that photo, is running against Tommy Smith.
I'll have to reach out and see if I can find her. Talk to her about her QAnon status or something like that. I don't give a shit. That's why. But my point is for me personally is like we are in agreement on it. Almost everybody I talk to in agreement. Everybody I talk to is this is a full agreement on it. Is that there is a full on lack of engagement. Mm-hmm. And voting is not really that much engaged, in fairness, if we're honest about it. just going out to the polls and voting is not engagement,
But
because
I would,
you're just picking a name, and 9 times out of 10 you're picking a name by the letter next to the name. And if that's what we're going to call engagement, then sure, I'm on board.
Okay. So
that's engagement.
This leads into the second thing, which was about campaigning. So first of all, there's a reason.
You're welcome. I knew this. I was me working.
First of all, there's a reason why other countries have higher voter turnout and we don't.
Because people pay attention?
Because there's numerous reasons. One of the reasons, I think, is that we need to make voting easier and more accessible to people. Students, there should be a polling place at UT the entire time for early voting. The only early voting location that's not the entire 2 weeks is the one that's at UT, and it's only for the last 4 days.
Well, because they're students at UT, they're idiots. They don't need to. They shouldn't be voting anyway.
They should be voting. They have a constitutional right to vote, and
but they can't drink. They can't smoke. They can't. They can take debt, then go to war, but they can't really make life decisions for themselves. But sure, they can vote.
We should make it easier for students to vote.
Okay.
We should make it easier for people to vote. But anyway, I would push back against the idea that voting is not. I think voting is the highest level of engagement.
No, voting ignorant voting is not engagement. It's just throwing. I mean, it's
democracy.
It's
democracy. Everyone has a right to vote.
Don't. Okay. I mean, okay, because democracy got Trump, whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
democracy got us Trump.
It did.
And if we're going to be
Trump brought out people that had never voted before.
Yes, he did.
And that's okay. So again, this is back into the second thing that I never started about campaigning. When you look at how you budget a campaign, it is so much easier to sway or convince someone who is already a voter to vote for you than it is to try and get someone who is not a voter to come out. So the majority of campaigns are really not, when you look at how you budget a campaign, the majority of the resources don't go towards people who are not voters trying to get them to become voters. The majority of resources go to people that are already voters, and you're trying to get them to come out to vote for you. And so that's why I'm saying if the first step is someone just voting one time, if you vote one time, you're more likely to vote again, and you're more likely to want to know who you're voting for and what you're voting about. And so I think that voting is the highest form of engagement and maybe the first step towards participating in democracy.
Okay. I mean, I agree that it is some level of engagement, but I don't.
I don't believe in compulsory voting.
I don't either. We've had that conversation. I can't remember who. I think it might have been Chris Davis the first time he was here. It's like,
that is bad.
What compulsory voting does is get whoever's first on the alphabet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whoever's first on the list, just get me the fuck out of here and let me go about my day.
Yeah. And I don't know what countries do compulsory voting anymore.
But I just don't. I mean, I don't know. Like, in fairness, that the current state of things, if voting is the general statement of engagement or whatever, I don't feel like there's enough engagement in who they're voting for in the general. Mm-hmm. That's my problem is we don't know who we're voting for. We don't know shit about them.
But okay, so you are someone who's studied politics for the last year, and you still talk about how you don't understand things, and you're one of the more qualified and educated
That's
people
disgusting.
around.
That is a problem. That is a real fucking problem.
And so everybody can't spend the amount of time that
fucking
you do.
Ron McPherson tells me I'm one of the most educated people in Knox County about how a school board budget works, and I don't know shit.
But everybody doesn't need to be an expert or be the smartest person in the room to vote. And people vote for many reasons, too. I don't think that everybody votes. Everyone that votes does not sit down with a piece of paper and list out the positives and negatives for why they're voting for this person or not voting for this person. They vote for someone because they know someone and they trust them. They vote for someone because they're against vouchers and they're against vouchers. They vote for someone because they are a champion of their community, and so they want to support those people. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons why people vote, and I think they're all good reasons. I mean, there's people who voted for Trump, who I very much disagree with, but they voted for Trump because they believe that he would do this for them or would do that for them. And if he's convinced them of that, then that's how democracy works. And I much prefer everyone being able to vote than just having the most educated people about specific policies or issues.
All right, so if we're gonna run down the problems with democracy part of things,
Are we gonna do that?
My libertarian podcast, Dave Smith, everybody look him up. He's good.
Mm-hmm.
He is not a fan of democracy. It's quite an interesting take. Because
is he an anarchist?
Yes, he is a full-on anarchist.
Okay. Well,
Mises
I am
Institute.
not an anarchist. I am a fan of democracy.
Because if you get down to it, if you think about it, if I'm trying to think, like this is the absurdum example. All right, so me and you and the dog are in the room right now, right?
Yeah.
So if you and I vote to kill my dog, that's democracy. If we agree on it, if we both vote yes, we can kill the dog. It's not moral, it's not ethical, but that's democracy.
Okay. I don't. American democracy is not two people in a room voting to kill a dog.
It's the like I said, it's the absurdum example.
Okay, but democracy has sure done us better than any other form of government.
I agree.
I don't want a monarchy. I don't want a theocracy. I'm a religious person. I don't want a theocracy.
I agree with you.
I don't want communism. It may surprise certain people. I don't want socialism. I don't want communism.
I mean, we're already semi-socialist anyway, and we need to accept the fact and not pretend like it doesn't already exist. That's part of the problem with that one. But I don't know. There's again, the base point to me is that I don't know that stupid voters count as engagement to me.
I think that everyone has the right to vote.
I agree.
And most people are low educated voters.
I agree.
They don't know much about what they're voting on, but they're still a part of democracy. And that's part of where, our whole system comes into play, is that there are checks and balances. That's why we re-elect a Congress every 2 years. So if it sways one way, it can sway another way. And it's why we elect a president every 4 years. It can change. And so over the long run, a constitutional democracy works. And I think that it moderates the worst tendencies of humanity and elevates the best tendencies of humanity.
I am not as hardcore. I'm certainly not an anarchist libertarian to begin with, but I tend to generally agree with you. I guess I think the constitutional democracy that exists would do better with what I am considering engagement. I guess, again, to channel AC, for those that listen regularly, AC, it's always give the definition of the fucking word. Engagement to me is not just checking a box because the R or the D is next to it. It's checking the box because you've done a little bit of homework on who is who and what is what and what. Again, like one of my chief complaints from the get-go is every single candidate that I had on last year talks about education. Mm-hmm. Todd talked about education. Kyle talked about education. Durrett talked about education. Who Durrett run against? Rosenberg talked about education. Like everybody I talked to is talking about education.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, Todd, Courtney, Daisha, any of the commission has next to 0% impact on Knox County education as it works.
Yeah,
but they all run on it.
But part of politics is narrative, and part of government is narrative. If there's a narrative and a movement that pushes political will for something to happen in government policy, then that's how stuff gets done. I think that's how the anti-masker, anti-Board of Health people did it. They created a narrative and pushed that narrative to the county commission, and county commission listened. If there was a group of people who just raised hell about a specific issue in public schools and just kept at it, and organized around it and elected people towards it, then that would also push. That's how we get political movements.
But at the end of the day, commission doesn't get to do that. They don't. The only thing commission can do is fuck around with budget.
But they have a platform. Commissioners have a platform to talk about it.
But that's fine. I have a platform to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. But they're elected officials.
Okay. But
And
they're elected not to do that job.
And they do.
So they should not be elected on a job that they can't do.
They do.
They shouldn't have credit. They shouldn't get, oh, he wants the schools to be nice. He doesn't have shit to do with the fucking schools. So he doesn't get to say that. And nobody calls it out. That's really, to me, this election cycle, if I hear a single city person do it, I'm going to spend an entire show talking about a city person talking about schools. So go ahead and prep your candidates. Do not talk about schools.
Well, the county is way more involved in schools than the city is. For sure.
Right, and that way more involvement is literally signing it when the budget comes up, because they're not going to do shit about it anyway. So if a single city person, go ahead and tell them. If a single city person brings up anything about the schools, I'm going to shit all over them for that.
There are many policies to talk about in city races, and there is a plethora of them in schools. Schools are not a city issue.
I'm just saying
They
that.
used to be, you know.
But that's the example. Yes, there used to be city
a
schools, and the city quit because they didn't want to pay for it.
That's
whatever. I don't know the history of it either. I'm just that's a reference. That's a reference I heard.
Courtney's dad was on the board. Of one of the school boards when they merged. Maybe you should have him on one time to talk about that. That'd be interesting.
It might be interesting.
Steve Roberts is Courtney's dad. He was chair of the city or county school board.
That might be very interesting. I'm again. I need a secretary to set up all these, especially when you're here. I need somebody to. I really need a
yeah. Oh, we should tell everyone about our other idea too. I had an idea for Seth to have a game show episode, and he would invite.
No, it's not a game show episode. I think. Well, that's what your idea was. I will take. Go ahead, finish yours, and I'll
so my
address
idea is to have a little game show episode where you have elected officials on, and you have the database of how much local government officials or employees make, and then you have them guess and say, all right, how much does so-and-so make? Or how much do you think the vice principal at Farragut Intermediate School makes? And then they guess, and then they get points for if they're right or wrong. And then the bonus question is too much, too little.
Right. And I like that. And what I think I'm going to tweak it to is I have one standard question that I've started doing. And I think I might add a couple of those as a fun standard question. So my standard question always is, what's going on that I'm missing? Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of stuff that I'm missing.
Yeah. I
know I'm missing a lot of stuff. What am I missing? That's become one of my standard questions. I had Kyle in here. I asked him.
What did he say?
I don't remember. That's why I record things, so I don't have to remember. He talked a little bit, like he said, baseball and stuff like that. We were talking about. We talked about the flooding thing down the road here that was extra interesting because of the rain we've had, and the first time I had him on here, we talked about it.
Yeah.
And so he kind of gave an update on. Again, that's how I know that North Shore is a state road. He kind of gave an update on the conversation between the city, county, and the state trying to get the flood taken care of. I don't know what the word is. There's a pumping station that they're trying to put in, and the city owns it's city property that is the easement on the side of the road. It's a state road, but it's in the county. Mm-hmm. And so it's this whole relationship between everybody trying to get everything lined up in the right amount of money and all that kind of crap.
And you're going to Andrew Roberto about it? Sounds like it's
this is a different. Okay. This is a different part of North Shore that's flooding as well.
All right. Well, it sounds like North Shore is.
North Shore's. Well, and again, it comes like one of the things I've realized over the process.
And we need a good zoning board of people that are unelected but faithful servants to make sure that things are good.
I don't know. To me. Realistically, the most important thing the commission does is zoning.
Oh yeah, big time.
And at the end of the day, it's the zoning that's in place. That's all ever it is. All the commission is doing is adjustments to. It's always well, it's supposed to be this, and I want to do this on it and stuff like that. Libertarian says do whatever the fuck you want, but it's all like I don't. That's one that I struggle with a lot because I like it's especially right now and during and going into post-pandemic time and all the population that we're going to see here in county very quickly.
Mm-hmm. In the next 10 years, it'll explode. And I think we really need to get a hold on
we do
and infrastructure.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's I mean, we can talk about that, but I think.
Well, I mean, there's okay. So like, I agree. There's some serious infrastructure needs that need to happen, and there's some questions, and that's one of the things Kyle talked about that I thought was very, very interesting. Is the commission starting to talk about the budget going forward and the different coronavirus bills and infrastructure bills that Biden and and even the Trump bill that's still in play.
What Trump bill it's in play?
The last COVID-19 bill that gave city county money.
No, there's no Trump infrastructure bill.
And so so they have a bunch of COVID money that they're allowed to spend, but they're trying to figure out exactly how they can and all that kind of shit. And then there's apparently on the horizon, there's some $3 trillion Biden infrastructure bill that's supposed to be getting into play.
Yeah.
And so we're thinking like $250 million is coming into Knox County. Between the two and how to spend that and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then how we're allowed to spend it and that kind of game too. And so, infrastructure is a big deal.
Yeah. Which is interesting to me because it's the county government who really hasn't been making the investments needed in infrastructure, getting bailed out by Democrats who are giving them money to build infrastructure.
Right, because the Democrats are bailing out the Democratic states that need it more directly, but whatever.
What the Tennessee is one of the most federally dependent states.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the most federally dependent states. A big chunk of our state budget, comes from the federal government.
That's stupid. Well, I don't know. I'll take it. Whatever. Fuck it. If they're taking it from me, I want it back.
Infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So long term, you're right. Okay, Knox County is poised to grow in the next 10 years.
For sure.
And we have not made the investments in infrastructure that we've needed to keep up with that. And I think that you can look towards Nashville and see that for a long time they kicked the can down the road on infrastructure too. And eventually it caught up with them. And what they had to do is raise taxes pretty hefty to make the investment in infrastructure. And now it's almost too late.
Yeah.
And so we in Knox County have to have a serious conversation about what our priorities are, what are our budget priorities, what are our fiscal priorities, and how are we going to use or talk about what our tax dollars are going towards or where they're coming from or how much the tax dollars are. Because we don't need to some people may think it's already too late, that the way that growth patterns are going and we haven't built infrastructure in certain areas. Okay, look at District 6, which is up in Karnes, Hardin Valley area. And they're all the time.
Half of that's not going to be District 6 anymore. A big chunk of that's coming into 4.
You think so? How do you know that?
I don't. I'm just saying it's like the growth. Yeah, I'm just guessing through the growth maps kind of conversation.
So if you look at the zoning issues that come on County Commission, look at some of the ones that come in District 6. I mean, District 6... they are having exponential growth. You got lots of people moving there from ORNL. I'll also say that they're one of the bluing districts for county commission. And
bunch of damn Yankees coming down here fucking with our lives.
Other parts of the South. Isn't Daniel from New Jersey?
Oh, fuck,
I'm from the South.
Apparently, all the Republicans around here are from New Jersey.
All the Democrats are from the South. All the Republicans are from New Jersey or Connecticut.
I don't get it either.
Whatever. So, and we're the ones who are invading.
I see where you're going there with the Connecticut thing. I get it.
Connecticut Kyle. Yeah, I mean, infrastructure, we need to have a serious conversation about it, and we can't kick the can down the road anymore. Because if we continue to kick the can down the road, it's going to take you 45 minutes to get downtown.
Right.
And actually, I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying, I think that commissioners will finally start dealing with it when they travel downtown to go to their commission meetings, and it takes 45 minutes to get there.
Right.
But it's probably too late at that point.
Well, I mean, there's only 2 commissioners that'll have to deal with it. So, I mean,
what do you mean?
I mean, there's the 6 and 4. Where's 5?
5 is Farragut.
All right, so 4, 5, and 6. Everybody else. I mean, actually, take that back.
Yeah, well, anyway, I was just using that as a way to talk about
like three or whatever up in whatever's
3 is the top part of the I-40 corridor. Yeah. Except it jumps over West Hills. It jumps over the blue precinct.
Go figure.
There's no gerrymandering.
Gerrymandering doesn't exist. But I mean, fuck. I don't know because like it's such a. Like that's one of the things I can't quite rationalize the scale of infrastructure work. Like I just can't what are we gonna do? Like especially like for me out here, like There's not a lot we can expand upon.
Mm-hmm.
There's room to put more houses and shit in, but there's not a lot of the major roads that we can expand upon. North Shore's not getting any bigger. Maybe a turn lane. Morel's not getting any bigger.
Yeah.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
But between here and downtown, there's some room for doing some stuff. Like Kingston Pike can't do much more. But trying to figure out how to get off Kingston Pike and 40, trying to get from my house to downtown without Kingston Pike or 40 right now is impossible.
Where do you have to go? You have to go North Shore and then go to Kingston Pike and then
you could go through Lions View and go, like, you could skip
Cumberland,
Kingston Pike.
you have to go through UT.
Right, you can skip, right. And I mean, downtown's a whole nother mess in infrastructure-wise and trying to get anywhere downtown, too. I mean stupid shit. Do you realize that there is...
I prefer to go to downtown than go far out west where you're like trying to get in.
There's no exit westbound to get to downtown.
There's no exit westbound.
You can't get onto Henley Street.
Off Cherry Street.
You can't get onto Henley Street.
Cherry Street goes to Magnolia.
You can get off of...
You can get on Henley Street going west.
No, you can't. From the zoo.
And Western Avenue.
From the zoo.
The Henley Street Western Avenue exit.
No, you can get off on 17th Street, or you can get off on Hall of Fame /
Hall of Fame goes downtown.
Right. You can get on Hall of Fame or whatever. You can get off at 17th. You can get off on John Sevier.
Well, there's no more room
or
for
you can get off
downtown.
You can get off Alcoa Highway. If you're coming,
you can get off Cherry Street and go to Magnolia.
You're right. But as far as like if I want to go to campus, you go to 17th Street.
Wait. You said coming west?
Right. So coming from Asheville, westbound.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Where eastbound, if you're going from West Knoxville towards Asheville, eastbound you can get off and go straight down Henley Street. It's the south side access is really the conversation I'm after.
Is this the transportation episode?
Well, no, it's one of those things. I think it's odd that you cannot go get Henley Street, Gay Street, any of that stuff.
There's a Henley Street exit when you go?
No, there's not a Henley Street exit going eastbound or going westbound. There is an eastbound exit. Okay. If you're coming from this side of town, yes. If you're coming from the other side of town, no.
Fact check us.
No,
I drive this way every day.
It's a fact.
Yeah. I never go downtown.
Right,
I get off Cherry Street or Hall of Fame.
It's John Sevier.
But that begs another question about transportation. What does transportation look like in 10, 20 years? Because that's going to drastically change. I mean, right now we're very car dependent. When you look at zoning laws too, at least before RICO, I mean, people can fact check me on this too. But at least other places, and historically here, we've been very like parking lot dependent.
Right.
And maybe we won't need to be parking lot. Look at all the parking lot that's at Westtown Mall.
You want to see a non-libertarian statement out of me?
Go for it.
The used to be Walmart Publix right there on the side of campus.
Yeah,
that needs to be obligated. That parking, it's not a garage per se, but parking underneath. Why not? Mm-hmm. Like take all of Kingston Pike, turn into that. The amount of just parking lot that is Kingston Pike.
Yeah.
The amount of new space that you could create with that.
I mean, yeah, when you drive down Kingston Pike, how much of Kingston Pike is a parking lot?
Yeah.
And when you think about 20 years from now, I mean, no one knows what it'll look like, but will as many people have cars as they do now and travel?
I mean, hell yeah. We got the joy of the pandemic and what it showed us and the ability to do a lot of stuff.
Or if you got self-driving cars and rather than having your own car, there's just like a company that has a lot of self-driving car. Uber has some sort of self-driving car service. You call an Uber and you drive down and it's cheaper because they don't have a driver now. And so, I mean, what does the future of transportation look like? It looks totally different.
I agree with that. I mean, and again, one of my on top of Metro plan is
Metro. Ding ding.
On top of drink. On top of Metro is a light rail here. I don't see why not.
Yeah.
It's fucking retarded expensive. I get that. I understand that part of why not.
Don't say that.
It's ridiculously expensive. Excuse me.
I think Tommy Smith likes light rail. You should talk to him about it.
I mean, of course he does. It's Southside. They need something to get access. Yeah. That's one of the problems with Knoxville to me too. Is like getting across the river. It's a whole other planet.
You're pretty good at naming districts now. I said Tommy Smith, and you knew immediately South.
Well, I've had him on the show, and he's campaigning.
I should quiz you. Let's do a quiz.
Okay, hit me.
District 6 City Council.
Roberto.
No. District 6 City
Yeah.
Council.
Roberto. That's all I got.
McKinsey.
That's 6. Where's 6?
6 is East Knoxville.
Oh, okay.
District 2 County Commission.
Don't cheat. I was gonna say Durrett or Lundy, but it's Durrett.
It is Durrett. Yeah, you got it. All right, good. You're one for one.
One for two. All right. So since we're playing games here, what's we got bets out. We need to get out in the air to make sure everybody's clear on what's going on.
Oh, that's right, bets. Yeah, we can talk about that.
So I already won the GOP chair race
I
bet.
said it would be Harry Brooks. You said it was Daniel.
Right, and then we had the standing bet of drinks for me getting Spangler on.
Yes.
And I mentioned to you the other day that Spangler was coming on Monday, and you said he was going to bail on me, and I said double.
He did bail on Monday.
I said double or nothing, that I'm going to get him.
Yeah.
And I have him now scheduled Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So let's clarify what it is. Did I lose the bet or did I win the bet?
He still hasn't showed up.
Okay, but it's a double or nothing on whether or not he's going to bail on me altogether.
Yeah. So you haven't won yet. He has to show
Right.
up. Yeah, he has to show up.
Right. So he shows up, wins the first bet, and I hit double or nothing because he's going. It's scheduled. I have it scheduled. It's a Zoom meeting. It's on the books.
Okay.
It's happening on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So he didn't bail on me. He just rescheduled. So I got Spangler on. That wins the first bet.
But bailing. Okay. Yeah, I guess so. So he has to show up. I mean, he could still bail on you.
So if Wednesday,
it's funny you use the term bail too.
So to clarify, the bet is that if Wednesday happens and I have
and Spangler comes
and I have Spangler and I interview Spangler for the show and I post that show,
mm-hmm.
I win 2 nights out.
Yeah, at Union Jacks apparently.
All right. Well, sorry. This episode is not brought to you by Union Jacks on North Shore and Kingston Pike. It's a great little English
Don't
pub.
go on North Shore. It's terrible.
If it's raining, be careful because it does flood there a little bit, which is weird because like the creek that's right, the fourth creek runs right behind there, and there'll be 2 feet of water on North Shore, and Fourth Creek is 3 feet below street level, just running like it does.
Really? Normal?
Yeah,
wow.
it's right there. It's not like it's not like Fourth Creek is coming out and flowing onto the roadway. It's just.
I don't know what level of government do you need to investigate for that one? I don't know. Does that go all the way up to God?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem here is because it's city. Well, I mean, it's city, county, state minimum. You know, I'm sure the EPA will come in somewhere because of Fourth Creek.
So Spangler, we can talk about 287G.
I don't know enough about it. Like I told you when we were talking about it.
I'll explain.
All right, hit me.
So 287G is a program created, I don't know, 20 or more years ago that basically says that local law enforcement are able to act as ICE agents and take on the role of ICE agents.
So what is that? Okay, like I kind of get that. Like, all right. So like my understanding of it at least was that it was like basically if you pick somebody up locally for whatever and there's suspicion of that, they can then turn it into an ICE situation.
Yeah. So basically, you can create normally they wouldn't be able to turn them into situation or things where they would be deported and immigration hearing, but there's this program where you can. Well, only 1% of local law enforcement agencies participate in this. And only 2 in the state of Tennessee: Greene County Sheriff's Office and Knox County Sheriff's Office. Well,
so okay, hold on.
Knox County Sheriff's Office.
Wait, back up. Hold on.
Yeah.
All right. So normal practice is you pick somebody up.
I mean, I'm not a law enforcement.
I know. I'm just trying to say, like, so. But what's implied here is that regularly. You go about your business. You pick you're a sheriff's deputy. You run around town. You pick somebody up, and you run on the assumption that they're legal residents at least. And so, at no point is there any conversation, normally speaking, of whether or not this is a legal resident. Whether this person is here legally in normal cases.
Well, it's just that they don't have the purview to enforce immigration laws like that. And so, I mean, I don't know the specifics of the logistics and things, but all it suits to say that they take on extra responsibility and extra law enforcement responsibility by engaging in the 287G program, where they're able to do more with immigration than they were before. So the previous sheriff to Sheriff Spangler is Sheriff J.J. Jones, which you should have that guy on here sometime too, because he's running for sheriff again, you know.
Yes, I know.
And so he signed on to the program, and then Spangler renewed the program. Well, come to find out through reporting from Jesse Mayshark and Tyler Whetstone that to enter into the program, Tennessee state law said that they had to have the approval of the governing body of the county, or the legislative body of the county. So that means the county commission. So they didn't do that. So J.J. Jones just unilaterally said that the sheriff's office is partnering with 287G program. And then it said that if you renew the program, it has to be approved by the governor and by the state legislature. Well, when Spangler did reapprove the program, he didn't do that. And so the sheriff's office, I mean, you'd have to read the story, but the sheriff's office is basically saying, oh, well, it's our legal opinion that you didn't need to do that. But the statute's pretty clear. It's a 2007 statute in the 2007 state statute that it has to be approved by the legislative body, which is county commission, and then for renewals, it has to be approved by the governor and by the state legislature, which I have no doubt that if they had taken it to them, they probably would have approved it.
Right.
Because it was Republican controlled, they probably would have approved it. But they didn't.
Right, so didn't go through the process.
They
right.
didn't go through the process. And so thus, now the argument can be made that this entire program is unlawful, and they've been doing this program for however many years, have been using taxpayer money to make these law enforcement officers do more, diverting from what their actual jobs are to be doing these other immigration enforcement jobs. And now it basically opens up the county to a huge legal jeopardy that who's to say there can't be a class action lawsuit by certain people that were harmed through this, and for them to say that it was unlawfully created. And see, my frustration is that you have Sheriff Spangler, who has already cost the taxpayer $750,000 because of the wrongful death lawsuit that recently, where they hogtied the guy and he died.
Right.
Terrible, terrible situation, in which the deputy overseeing that was promoted, wasn't even disciplined or punished, was promoted. And so you have the situation where he's cost the taxpayer $750,000 in the wrongful death lawsuit. He's cost the taxpayer $76,000 or $78,000 in a lawsuit trying to keep the 287G record sealed. And now he's opened us up to, whether you agree with the 287G program or disagree with it, I find it to be immoral, and I don't think we should be doing it. But whether you agree with it or disagree with it, it was entered into unlawfully, and now it's opened up the entire county to legal jeopardy. And who's to say there couldn't be a millions of dollars class action lawsuit against the county now? So we're approaching over $1 million that Sheriff Spangler has cost the taxpayer because of whether it's stubbornness or lack of training or something like that. So I don't know. That's my opinion.
Okay. Again, I'm not well informed enough on this particular to really form an opinion, other than I take issue, that's one of the problems. It's a very good libertarianism issue with how the liability plays out for how a sheriff's or police department lawsuit comes down. Mm-hmm. You and me, as constituents, end up paying for the lawsuits.
Yes.
Regardless of what the lawsuit is. Mm-hmm. I don't know the solution to it. I mean, I do know the libertarian solution to it. And
I mean, one of the solutions would be to reject that governance in the future.
I mean, again, one of the things that I like, one of the things on my list of things to talk about Spangler about is where the sheriff's office sits in the hierarchy of government. Like, it's one of those weird spots. It's it's the commission doesn't really have oversight, but kind of does.
They don't really answer to anybody.
They're a body built by the state, and they have to exist by state mandate. Mm-hmm. But who in the state oversees it, how that works?
Yeah, I mean, Glenn Jacobs doesn't oversee the sheriff's department. The county commission doesn't really oversee the entirety of the sheriff's office.
The best they get is purse strings. You know, and again, going back to the Board of Health thing, not that I want to go back on that one. It's, you know, but Spangler clearly stated that he is not following said guidelines. It's like that. I'm not going to arrest people for not wearing masks. That's just the way that's just not me. And there's pros and cons to that. Like I was at California was talking about gun confiscation, and some sheriffs there were like, no, we're not confiscating people's guns.
I don't know anything about that.
I don't know the specifics of it. I just remember hearing a little bit about it, but it was something like there was some different stuff going on in maybe California or Oregon, some one of the western states where, like, you know, there was I think it was I want to say it was a governor that was talking about doing different stuff, and sheriffs were like, nope, not doing it. That's not what I got elected to do, and I'm not doing that because I'm an elected official. And so where they sit in the whole hierarchy of the thing, I'm very interested to see what he says, at least, because I don't know the answer to it, but I'm interested to see what his answer is. And again, knowing full well that his answer may not be 100% the right answer, because you know, I need another lawyer in my life.
The sheriff's office, the position of sheriff, outside of whoever's sitting in it, and even the position of law director, we can try and say it's not a political position, but it's a political position. And there are pros and cons that come along with that. One pro may be that they could be swayed by public opinion. One con is that it could become very partisan about things that happen or don't happen. But I think for me, my opinion is, as a Democrat, I believe that good governance means accountability. It's not that just the government does whatever, but the government has to be accountable. And for the Knoxville Police Department, there's an organization called PARC, the Police Advisory Review Committee, which basically is kind of the accountability for the police department. And we don't really have anything we don't
It was like the Merit Council thing or whatever that's been in conversation.
The civil service or civil merit, that thing. I mean, that's for employees and things, but it doesn't really have oversight of
right. I agree. I wasn't saying that. I was just saying that's the closest thing commission has.
Yeah, and so I think that there should be some sort of committee or similar to PARC that's with the sheriff's office. And apparently someone once told me that Glenn Jacobs at one time was supportive of an idea like that. And I don't know if he still is or isn't, but someone had mentioned that.
And again, it's one of those like where
I would like to ask him if he was.
Right, and where it sits in the hierarchy of things and whether or not Glenn Jacobs can make said thing happen, and it has any
to be political will for it. But
not even political will for it. Even if there is political will for it, is there any statute to make it so? Like, how can Glenn and the commission put something in place as an oversight committee that the sheriff actually has to respond to, legally speaking?
Yeah, I don't know.
Between his role inside the state and that kind of thing. That's one of the things that
I would think so, or I'd hope so, because at what point is a government office just you can't do anything about it? Sorry.
All right, exactly. That's what I'm very curious to know about the sheriff's office, and where that's why I want to know where it sits in things. Is like, if commission puts an ordinance in place, let's say for, I don't know, here's a crazy idea, is that the Board of Health the commission kills the Board of Health and says, we as a commission think that a curfew and mask mandate is a thing that we want to do as a county. I'm not saying they do, but let's say they do say that, and Spangler's like, yeah, okay, you could say it, but I'm not gonna enforce it. Yeah. Does he have the authority to do that? Probably, as far as I understand it.
Yeah, I'm not an attorney, I don't know.
So what do we do? It's like, it was pretty easy for Spangler in the current situation to say, I'm not going to enforce a mask mandate from the Board of Health because it's the Board of Health and it's on whatever purpose he wants to put on it. Yeah. Because where he sits in the hierarchy of things. But if the commission was the one that did it, if the commission puts a mandate in place to, require that you only walk on the sidewalk in the same direction as traffic, so that if you want to walk southbound,
it's part of the infrastructure plan.
I don't know. I'm just saying, so sidewalks are only for the direction that the traffic that's going next to it goes. Yeah. And so you have to, if you're going northbound if the cars go northbound, you walk on the sidewalk that's going northbound next to the cars. Southbound's the other way. So you have to cross the street, change directions. Commission puts that in place. Sheriff says, meh, I'm not going to enforce that. Does he have the authority to do that? Is there a repercussion for him not enforcing a mandate set forth by the commission? That's what I'm curious about personally.
Yeah,
I don't know if that. I got to figure out a better example by Wednesday when I get to talk to him because that's a stupid one. But
well, I don't know.
Okay, actually, here's this because one of the ones I do want to talk to him about is decriminalization of pot and stuff like that. So if the commission says that Knox County doesn't want criminal charges brought against people for simple possession, small amounts of marijuana or whatever like that, if the commission votes on that and the mayor agrees on it or whatever the process is for that, Spangler's like, nope, I can still arrest people because that's how I make money. Not really how he makes money, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at some point there has to be some sort of enforcement, and whether I or you personally agree or disagree, we are a society of laws, and at some point there has to be some sort of accountability. Right, but I don't know what it is.
Right, but I guess the phrase at play is like a law doesn't exist if it's not. A law may exist, but it doesn't matter if it's not being enforced.
Yeah, I mean, what if somebody kills somebody and whoever the sheriff is friends with them, and then they're like, oh, I'm not going to arrest that person.
Right. I mean, that's an extreme example, but yes, exactly.
Who can someone does the I've never thought about this before, but who has impeachment authority over county offices?
I mean, I know Davis talked about recalls, but...
Well, I know recalls, but like what if if the county mayor or sheriff or the trustee or someone did something terrible, does the county commission have the authority to remove them through...
Right. Well, I mean,
I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Right, because I asked Kyle about it too. Because one of the things that come up on the Board of Health conversation is like one of the arguments, the kind of core argument is this is a non-elected body making legal decisions. Blah 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 blah. These people are appointed by the commission, so it's an indirect. There's an indirect accountability.
Yeah. So if you don't like them, then elect new commissioners.
Right, and so there's but I asked Kyle. I was like, well, what's the process of removing a Board of Health member? Know. Kyle, it just came up in the conversation,
really?
So I haven't asked that up. He should know that. I haven't asked anybody else. I haven't asked anybody else since it was sadly, it was a new idea for me, and that's the problem.
We've been talking about this for a year, and this is the first time anyone's ever.
As far as I understand it, well, because and again, credit to whomever, and I apologize for not remembering your name on the Facebook thread, but credit to whomever to kind of making that point of saying, these are appointed by the commission. So they're indirectly responsible to it.
So if you don't like,
and then what's the recall process?
If you don't like the Board of Health, then elect new commissioners who will put new people on the Board of Health.
Right. That again, I acknowledge
see, that's
that.
The thing too is that a lot of people think about government as happening like immediately. Elections don't happen immediately. Like someone could get elected and immediately do dumb stuff, and you hate them. You got to wait 3 years or 2 years or 4 years.
Right. Or go through the recall process, which is the same as getting a new party on the ticket. And it's ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
I used the correct R word, and I apologize for the previous using of the wrong R word.
I've heard that the libertarians are trying to get on the ballot, though.
They are.
Yeah.
There's something moving in the state right now to lower the number required to get.
It won't pass.
Probably not.
The Republicans won't let it pass.
Well, neither will the Democrats if they were in the majority.
Well, the Republicans are in the majority, and they won't let it pass.
And so, I get to use this opportunity to shit on the Republicans. I get it. Neither party will let it pass.
I mean, I don't know.
It'll play its game.
For us, it would be maybe the Green Party, but they're not that popular. So.
You wouldn't let the Green Party pass either. That's worse for you than the Libertarians.
Well, what did the Green Party get us? George W. Bush as president. Thanks, Ralph Nader.
You would prefer a Libertarian as the third party than a Green Party as the third party because Libertarian's going to take more Republican votes.
You're good at politics.
I understand, though. I don't understand shit. I hate politics.
And you have a politics podcast.
I want to understand governance. That's the thing. I've told you about it the other day. Is like
governance. Governance comes from politics,
and politics comes from governance. Yeah, it is a gross relationship.
But you can't have one without the other.
It is a gross relationship.
It's a love and marriage.
I don't know if that's the song I'm singing right now, but I don't know. I got to cut you off. This is the first time I've had to do this. I got another show.
What time is it?
It's 10 to 10.
We didn't even talk about city council.
Okay, you got like 5 minutes. I legitimately have another show in 10 minutes.
We'll have to talk about city council.
No, we can talk about city council. We got. I'm curious who this father-son duo is from.
I would like to
from District
know
2.
Who they are as well.
I haven't called them yet, but their number's available. I just like. I don't know. I mean, it's to me, it's a little early to start.
It is, but we've got the first negative mailing that came out today
right,
against Lauren Ryder,
which is craziness. But like, it's a little early to start. I have a couple of the guys that I met at the GOP reorganizing that I talked to.
Is the Dupree guy still running? Someone told me he's not running.
I have not. I don't know who the Dupree guy is.
Running against Andrew.
I don't know. There's a There's a Dan Davis who he hasn't actually pulled petition yet, and then
Jim Clanaris.
No, I got the guy that I met, Garrett Holt.
Oh, he's running against Gwen McKenzie.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I'll be talking to them. I've already talked to them about setting up, and we're waiting another month or so before we start do a show, just because it's a little early. Mm-hmm. Again, I think for our sake right now, for those listening that are city residents, it's August primary. You get to vote for your district in the primary. It's going to narrow it down to 2, and then your general is in November.
And everybody in the city votes.
Right, and then you get to vote for every city seat in the general. If you're District 5, you don't get a primary. You only vote in November because you get to vote for everybody else in the whatever. Because we don't want a radical, I think is the phrase, and why that was set up in the city council. That's years old. That's why the city does it the way it does. I can't remember who. I was told who the mayor was at the time that changed that election process, because it used to be you voted in the primary for your district, and then you voted in the general for just your district. Mm-hmm. And then it changed from you vote for the primary in your district. That's how Seema won her seat. She apparently she got beat handily in the primary
by James Corcoran, and then won
in the citywide race.
Which brings me to one of the points is that if these Republicans think that they're going to take over city council, their policies are not popular in the city, and everybody has to get elected.
The thing to me, I teased this in the intro, and I guess this is a good way to finish. I talked to Chris Davis, and I did that show, and you guys all listened to that show, and he was talking about how low the turnout was, and so I messaged Hornbrook, and I was like, look, I'm not a Republican, I'm not pro your stance on stuff. You are, and that's fine. I'm not trying to take away or add to or whatever. But if the turnout is this bad, and it struck me as funny just because in general, in the great conversation of politics at whole, it's the Republicans that don't want turnout.
Yeah.
And it's the Democrats that do.
And we want to make voting
easier.
And
so I thought it would be a cool idea to say, to have a Republican pundit in Hornbrook to go and start the process of saying, if we can get the turnout, we can win these seats.
That's every election.
Right, but if we can get the turnout on a normally low turnout, because normally low, like, again, in the general conversation, the Republicans like the low turnout because they do better in them. Mm-hmm. And so to have a Republican trying to push higher turnout, I thought was going to be an interesting thing to see.
Yeah.
And he did it, and I think it's true. I think it's right. If they can get the turnout for their people, they can win because the numbers are so low.
But when they send these just terrible mailers claiming that Lauren Ryder is evil because she supports Kamala Harris, they're going to piss off the people that they don't want to come to vote.
Well, maybe, and
I know plenty of Democrats who got that hate piece of mailer today, and I bet you that Lauren Ryder raised $1,000 today off of it.
You were probably correct.
She's going to have to count it as a gift in kind to the campaign. I mean, so keep them rolling, crazy dark money pack.
Right,
bring
it. And it's going to be an interesting to watch, and as you stated, it's probably a waste of money for the Republicans to try, but they seem to be doing it anyway. And so it's going to be a fun show for me, at least, to watch this thing happen as it happens.
I'm looking forward to it.
And so I again, like, it just struck me when I was talking to Chris about how low turnout was in general. Mm-hmm. But even there's room.
County elections are low turnout.
Right. I don't know. Like I said, I'm
even
not,
national elections in some places are low turnout.
Right. And again, I don't disagree with the premise. I just like the thought hit me.
Like I said earlier, it's so much more difficult to get a non-voter to come out than it is to convince someone who's already a voter to vote for you.
Right.
But you can get people to turn out. I mean, I want to get more people to turn out in county elections. I'm sure the Republicans want to get more people to turn out in city elections, and we'll see who does a better job at that.
Right. And again, we get to argue after the fact on whether it actually did anything good for it. Matt Shears, everybody. I got to cut it off. I've got another one in 5 minutes, and I'm about to pee my pants. Holy shit. All right. So, like I said, I'm a junkie. Can't stop myself. And I'm so excited that I had to cut somebody off. It's the first time I think I've ever had to cut somebody off on the show. And I'm sorry, Matt. It's not because of you. It's because I overbooked myself. I was trying to get I wanted to get the Compass guys on to talk about the craziness that's been happening in the whatever you said that word I can't say. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, among other things. We're almost agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Check us out. Give us a like, share, all that kind of things. Help us get the word out because I think you're all stupid voters and you need to be smarter voters. So help me make you a smarter voter by telling your friends about me. Our website is up and going. It is almostinagreement.com. You can reach us there. All these shows are getting updated there regularly. I'm working in the backstories or all the previous shows and all that kind of jazz. That's all I got. Thanks to Matt Shears. I'll put a link to the Knoxtem's website page or Facebook or something like that in the notes so that you can look up them.
And we're going to have a dodgeball or a kickball game at the end of the month, Republicans versus Democrats, UT.
Yeah, I'm going to go, and I'm really just going to go in glad hand and try to find some people to come on the show for you guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon.